Okay, with that out of the way, let's get ready for Dumbo!
Jesus Christ. Welcome to Destination Animation, your trip around the world of cartoons and anime, stop motion and puppetry, special effects and CGI, and everything in between. I'm your host, Jason Knott.
And I'm your host, Carrie Dreblow, and today we are talking about Dumbo! The world's only flying elephant! The Great!
The Great what?
But yeah, this is the 2019, just released last week, remake of Disney's 1941 animated masterpiece. The masterpiece. I believe it was their fourth animated feature? Okay, fourth. Yeah. Yes. Which was released at a very interesting time in the studio's history. Like, it was right after Fantasia and Pinocchio, which pretty much bankrupted the studio. Yeah. So, yeah, the original Dumbo was kind of a little bit of a low-budget production meant to recap the studio's profitability. So, you know, it's kind of been everyone knows it exists, but I feel like it's kind of been overlooked a bit, almost. A little bit. So it was very interesting to see that this movie, of all things, they chose to remake in the live-action treatment. And, yeah, they hired Tim Burton on to direct.
Tim Burton, of all people.
Yeah, like, that is not a pair that I would have expected. Like, I don't know, like, Batman, Beetlejuice director, Sweeney Todd, Dumbo, like the colorful cartoon about the flying elephant.
Yeah, I would love to see that in the trailer for it, from the director of Ed Wood and Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street comes, Dumbo.
I mean, but obviously, if you're listening, like, surely that sounds interesting. Yeah. And, well, was it interesting? We will find out.
We will find out. But first, we should talk about what we think of the original movie.
Yes, of course.
Of course. It's cute. Yeah.
That's just your opinion? It's cute?
I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, it's cute. Dumbo and his mom are the best characters, and Timothy too. And, you know, the animation is, like you said, it was made at a time when they were kind of at a bit of a financial crisis, so you can tell it's still good, but it's not as good as, like, you know, Pinocchio or Fantasia were. Or even Bambi after it, because Bambi is amazing.
Absolutely. Like, that movie, it's such a shame that so many of those original Disney movies actually bombed at the box office. Because, like, that was the period where Disney was being, like, all out in terms of artistry. And so the animators spent, like, so long studying the realistic movements of animals and stuff. And so it's just such a contrast because it went from Bambi to Dumbo.
Yeah. We, you know, with hindsight, we think, oh, you know, like movies like Pinocchio and Fantasia and Dumbo, they're classics. But they didn't do financially well when they were released and only made back their money with re-releases years later.
Well, I mean, to be fair, part of the reason why Bambi did so bad was just because the European market was cut off because, you know, 1941, World War II was a thing. And, well, Dumbo 1941, World War II, like this... I think this came out only a couple weeks before Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. There's a Steven Spielberg movie called 1941, and like it takes place, I don't know, December, I think, and they actually show the clip from Dumbo, Baby Mine.
Oh, God. You can definitely tell that Dumbo was a lower budget production just by the background animation. It looks more like the background animation from like one of Disney's short films.
Yeah.
And heck, it even looks kind of simplified compared to some of Disney's higher budget short films like The Old Mill and like their other technical demonstrations from the mid-30s. But, this is what I love about the original Dumbo. Like, my opinion on the original Dumbo is I love it. The reason why I love it is because of the character animation.
It is very good.
This is a tour de force of Bill Teitla, who is possibly the most talented Disney animator to ever work at the studio. He animated both Dumbo, Mrs. Jumbo, and he also animated some of the gossipy elephants.
Yeah.
And he based Dumbo around his then 2-year-old son, and you can just see the passion and the heart that are in that character. And, you know, Dumbo has this just prototypical, like, little kid thing where, you know, he's spontaneous and silly, and when people make fun of him, he doesn't even understand what's going on with him. And, you know, it's that innocence and that wonderful chemistry that he has with his mom. The movie's just so special. Like, this, I don't think the script is anything special. It's generic-ish, but the amazing character animation saves it for me and definitely keeps it in the pantheon of, like, the gold era Disney classics. I love it.
It is very cute. The scenes with Dumbo and his mom are the best parts. They're so cute.
Cute and heartbreaking.
Oh, and I'm glad you pronounced the animator's last name first, because I was going to say Bill Titla.
Well, I actually don't know if it's Titler or Titla. I say Titla because Titla sounds weird.
It sounds weird.
I could be wrong.
Maybe it was. He also animated before this, I want to say Grumpy from Snow White, and Stromboli and Pinocchio, and Chernabog, the demon god from Fantasia. So very, very...
All correct. Well done, well done.
Very diverse character animator.
Yeah, Bill Titla is famous for, he was actually one of the few classically trained artists at the studio, so his animation has a lot of power and weight to it. You can definitely see that in this movie. Like, the elephants just have so much good weight to them. You can feel how big and heavy they are, and yet, again, he just keeps the cute innocence too. It's just, he's so talented at both from a technical standpoint and as a character animator, but now I feel like we're just, like, going on and on about the original movie.
Yeah.
I do feel like, to some degree, this is something that Lindsay Ellis mentioned about the Disney sequels, where your enjoyment of the sequels is probably in inverse proportion to how much you enjoyed the original movie.
Sure. I get that.
I don't know. So... spoilers a bit, we kind of have dissenting opinions on this movie, looking just based on the show notes at least. Like, it seems like you enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did.
Sure, and I kind of have a moderate reaction to it, so your reaction must be very, very interesting.
I have opinions about this movie. And by God, you're going to hear them.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of your rewatch notes here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like, after watching the climax of this movie, like, I read some of the reviews from critics, and a lot of them talked about how they thought that this movie was like an elaborate metaphor that was well done, and it was like Tim Burton trying to make a statement about the status of corporate movie filmmaking, and I was like, what?
Well, here's the thing, guys. Tim Burton isn't very subtle, so if he were trying to make a statement, you would probably realize it.
Yeah. But, so, I had to go back and rewatch the climax, because I really did not like this movie when I first saw it in theaters. So, like, I always have to double check when I don't like something, or when I really like something. You know, I'm kind of afraid that I missed something, especially when I like something more than other people or less than other people. So I was like, man, did I really miss something? Like, maybe I went into the theater because I like the original so much and know the original so well that I was, like, nitpicking it from the start, and therefore it sabotaged my enjoyment of the entire movie. Yeah, I went and rewatched it, and my opinion is, nope, I stick by my guns. So, I have opinions about this movie, and you're gonna hear them.
You're gonna hear them, damn it. So, let's get into Dumbo, 2019.
Dumbo, 2019.
2019, the year of our Lord.
So, basically, the movie opens at the, Max, is it Medici or Medici? Medici brothers. Except there's not actually two brothers.
One
it's just
guy.
Danny DeVito.
It's just Danny DeVito. I love Danny DeVito.
Okay, I feel like a lot of the acting in this movie was bad. Danny DeVito, like,
it's great.
As soon as he came on screen, I was like, God, I love this character.
Because he's Danny DeVito, how can you not love him? Did you bring the toll? You gotta pay the troll toll. If you want to see that Dumbo, you gotta pay the troll toll to get in.
Oh my gosh.
You want the baby Dumbo. Alright, that's enough.
But in any case, so we start out basically seeing, I'm I know he's Medici brother. I'm just going to call him Danny DeVito.
Yeah, that's who he is.
Seeing Danny DeVito's circus in action. So we have the amazing mermaid woman who is like in a aquarium, and we see the world's strongest man, and it's like this big burly guy who's lifting up a fake painted barbell and
snake charmer.
Yep, snake charmer.
Your basic like cavalcade of carnival freaks.
Yes, cavalcade of carnival calamity.
There you go.
And, like, it's picking up at their winter grounds, much like the original Dumbo started out in Florida at, like, the circus's winter grounds.
Yeah.
Except in the original, we start out with, like, this 5-minute montage of the storks delivering babies, where that's not in this one.
Yeah.
It just starts out with the circus and their winter grounds, and they start traveling around the country.
Indiana Jones style.
Yep. While they did actually keep the Casey Jr. music. Like, they didn't do an entire musical production of it, but they definitely kept pretty much the entire melody in the orchestral score. Mm-hmm. I am a fan.
Yeah, Danny Elfman's score is pretty good.
They did quite well manage to mix keys from the original Dumbo score while also making it its own thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Casey Jr. thing is there, and the train has this, like, creepy grin.
I thought it was cute, honestly. I'm like, oh, it's little Casey Jr., that's kind of cute. I don't know if it would work well if you hadn't seen the original movie, but, like, I don't know. A lot of the references they do in these Disney remakes is just, like, off to me and dumb. Like, in Cinderella, you still had the, little mice friends that she had, and Lucifer still tried to get them, but the slapstick didn't work because they were really realistic, and it looked like an actual cat was hurting itself. I'm like, no, stop, Lucifer! Rucifer!
Aw.
Rucifer!
Yeah. Well, in this movie, they kind of just paid homage to the things from the original movie. Like, when they finally introduced Mrs. Jumbo, I talked about how they don't have the storks in the intro. Mm-hmm. We get one stork as Mrs. Jumbo is staring wistfully into the sky, and we hear that she's expecting. We see one stork.
And a couple storks fly by, too, after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that's it. The stork just watches her and says, "Look out for Mr. Stork," and then flies away.
The stork doesn't actually talk, but whatever. Humor.
No, the animals don't talk in this.
No, they don't. Dumbo just makes a lot of very cute noises, and that's pretty much the extent of the animals. Oh yeah, also, Max Medici has a pet monkey.
It's creepy. That monkey does not look natural. The CGI in this movie is pretty terrible.
Okay. See, it's kind of funny, like, critics talked about the CGI being terrible. I kind of wasn't distracted by it, so...
Well, on Dumbo, it looks alright. On, the elephants, it mostly looks alright when they aren't interacting with people. But the monkey and... Oh, there was something else. Oh yeah, when people... Spoilers. They ride on Dumbo as he's flying, they look fake. It looks weird. The CGI is not good.
Okay. I don't think that's really a spoiler. You can interpret that in any number of ways.
Well, spoiler, in case everyone has stayed away from all the trailers and the original movie for the past, 70-some years? Almost 80?
See, I feel like we cannot do a spoiler. I feel like we don't need to do a spoiler tag for stuff that's from the original movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Everyone grew up with this movie. If they didn't, I'm shocked.
Yeah, well, you got to stay away from the sadness that was Baby Mine, so good on you.
Just having that song in the trailer made me bawl my eyes out.
That's just... Last year,
It's so sad!
Disney released that scene for, like, Mother's Day and said, "Happy Mother's Day." I'm like, no! Don't do that!
You evil, evil people!
Ugh. So anyway, Dumbo is born, and there's a bit of a mixed reaction from the circus troupe for some reason.
Mixed reaction? I feel like everyone in the circus troupe immediately is like, "I didn't pay for a freak!
I didn't pay for a freak! My roommate was a frog kid. You ever see a frog kid?" This whole episode could just be Always Sunny lines.
Oh yeah, we forgot about the human characters. Like,
oh yeah, that tells you all you need to know about them, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, there's two kids, Millie and
Vanilli.
And a boy who does like one thing in the script and
That's
then
it.
Pretty much just stands there the rest of the movie, so I can't even remember his name.
You really only needed the girl character for how much the boy contributes.
Yeah, like pretty much. I think her name her name is Millie, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. She is the character who goes through the character growth with Dumbo throughout the movie. She has this key that her mother left. And, like, metaphorically, it's like, this key can unlock anything.
You can unlock any door if you only have the key.
Yep.
Only it doesn't unlock anything, actually, and it's kind of a weird MacGuffin, because it doesn't do anything, physically.
Yeah, well, again, it's a visual metaphor.
Yeah, I guess. You're defending the movie more than I thought you would.
Well, there's certain things about it that I can recognize.
Sure.
Like, I actually I actually kind of liked, now I can't say it without getting into spoilers, but I'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about it in spoilers.
But, so the father character of these two kids is returning home from World War I, and oh no, he's lost an arm while he was at war. He's lost
an arm.
And the mom died off screen somewhere.
As you do in a Disney movie.
So yeah, basically these are our human characters. The father used to be like this great rodeo cowboy in the Medici Brothers Circus, and he was a star, and now he's coming back home, and we find out that Max Medici sold his horse because of budget cuts.
Times is hard.
And, yeah. Times is hard, sir.
These have got to be the worst circuses in Joplin.
Oh, God. But, yeah, so this is where my nitpicking begins. Like, God, I could not stand this scene where the kids meet their dad for the first time in years, coming home from the war, and, he's missing an arm. It's like, they immediately, like, stand nervous and don't even know what to do. It's like, hug your dad! You haven't seen him in how many years? Like, this is not what kids do!
The scene could have worked if it was, like, framed differently. Like, maybe if... Well, you can't really have it that they don't know him, because he, obviously, they're old enough that they would know him. He wasn't away on the war for that long. But, I don't know, if they were... I feel like, I don't really remember, but they start running to him, but then when they see his arm is missing, they kind of, like, stop and, like, look blank. I feel like if there was more emotion from the kids, it could have worked better. Like, they're just shocked, and that's what stops them, and he's like, oh, yeah, lost my arm, huh? And then he, like, goes in to hug them himself, and I don't know. There's a lot that could have been better from the acting side of this, and the kids is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Okay, that is one thing that we can both agree on, is that the kids did not do a very good job of acting. Nope. Like, I mean, I hate ragging on kid actors because they're trying, but this is also partly on the director.
Yeah. You
have to be good at directing kids to get good performances out of them, and here, it just feels like Burton left the camera on them, and they had no emotion, and he was just like, whatever, that's the best we're gonna get. Yeah. Move on.
Tim Burton he's not really good at directing kids, I feel. Like, he can do it good sometimes, but even with some of his... better films with kids, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, they don't really act like natural kids. The original Willy Wonka, the kids all spoke naturally and had, their personalities felt natural, but in the remake, you can kind of tell, like, okay, they're reading off a script, and that's fine, because it still works.
Actually, mentally, I was comparing the girl's performance to the boy from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's performance.
Yeah.
Because the line reads were kind of similar. Especially, I was thinking... Chocolate doesn't have to have a point. And there was a scene where Millie was like, I'm not interested in these things. I'm a woman of science.
Yeah.
I was like, well...
She had very, like, wooden line reads, and she'd make weird pauses every so often, too. And, like, you couldn't do a second take of that, Burton? What's wrong?
Yeah, so I think we can both criticize that.
Yeah. I don't know. If she wants to pursue acting, she'll probably do a better job as she gets older, but... Yeah, it's rough in this movie.
Yeah, it was enough that it was consistently distracting for me. Like, I could not get emotionally invested in the character.
Yeah.
Because it felt like the script was dictating that she was supposed to be having these revelations and feeling these things, but the actual text of the movie, no. It just felt like she was monotone through the whole movie.
Yeah. Maybe
showed a little bit of emotion towards the end, during the big climax.
Sort of.
And her character payoff, but yeah, could have been done a
little better.
But yeah, that robotic delivery is definitely like one of my least favorite parts of the movie. But during this introduction scene where the kids are meeting their dad for the first time, I was just mentally nitpicking it so much because I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it would have been more effective if the kids would have, like, run up to their dad and hugged him and they're so excited to see him, and then they realize, oh, shoot, he lost his arm in battle. Or maybe even I don't know. I just feel like it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah. It's like, he's your dad. You would be thrilled to see him, and then you'd be like, so what happened to your arm later? And
my grandpa,
I don't know.
My grandpa lost his arm to cancer before I was born. I never even questioned it when I was a kid.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking, is like, kids don't see these things as that big of a deal as much.
Usually.
Like, they're curious, but it's not like, oh my god, he's changed.
He's changed. Get out of here, Colin Farrell. Go back to Fantastic Beasts.
Exactly. And that's how I feel like the movie was framing it. Like, as soon as the dad character came into the frame, it's the camera, like, focused on it, and it's like, look at this! Oh my god!
Look at the freak! You're a freak!
No, bad Jason. Yeah, like, that was, again, my nitpicking had already started by this point. Mm-hmm. So from this point on, I was just, like, mentally going through, like, how would I have done this differently? Why is this not working? How could it have been done more emotionally so we connected to these characters more?
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's part of the reason why I didn't like it that much, is because it never held my suspension of disbelief. I do not, okay, this ties into the scene where they finally see Dumbo. Dumbo has large ears.
No.
It doesn't matter. He's adorable. He has these big blue eyes, and he's a baby elephant, and I just want to hug him and squeeze him to little pieces because he's so precious, but that's not the reaction of any of the characters in the movie. None of them are like, oh, he's cute. They immediately see his ears, and they're, what is this? I didn't pay for it. And you know, God.
I feel like it would have been better if, because Medici buys him, and he's like, oh, buys Mrs. Jumbo, and he's like, oh, she's pregnant. We're gonna have a baby. I'm gonna advertise this, sell it. I feel like it would have been a little better if the pregnancy were a surprise, and Dumbo, like, gets revealed, and it's like, oh, she was pregnant. Oh, he's cute. And then, like, in the original, he, like, sneezes, and then his ears pop out, and they're like, whoa.
Okay, so here is one of my biggest nitpicks, and this is because I like the original character so much. In the original movie, people still think he is cute.
As he is. Okay?
Everybody is still curious about him, and they're like, oh, look at that. Isn't that the funniest thing you ever saw?
Ain't that the funniest thing you ever saw? That kid sucks.
But again, it's like, people aren't revolted by him. They're fascinated. And they think it's interesting and if a bit strange, and not like, what is this? I didn't pay for this. Ew, get it away from me. Like,
what is this?
People are so cool in
Smells
this
like piss. Smells like ew. This is piss. Piss with ears.
Are we just going to keep going on the Sweeney Todd references?
Tim Burton. It's Tim Burton.
But yeah, that's probably my biggest complaint, is what they do with the development of Dumbo's character and his separation from his mother in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
It is horrible compared to the original film. So bad.
Very fast-paced.
Yeah. This is the thing that kills me too, in, like, as you talked about the fast-paced, they go through the entire original movie in half an hour.
Yeah.
The original movie was 64 minutes long.
Yeah.
You would, and it felt padded at 64 minutes because you had all these scenes, like the stork scene and the song of the roustabouts and the pink elephants.
That's a catchy song, though, the roustabout song.
Also kind of racist, but
also
catchy.
Very racist. Same with the crows.
Yes, let's be honest. The whole original Dumbo was a little bit racist.
A little on the racist side.
Yeah.
Like that Family Guy episode where he's at Disney World and then he's trying to find Stewie and he meets the crows. Have you seen my son? Boy, I done seen a lot of things, but I ain't never seen your son. Yeah, good old casual racism.
Yeah. Regrettably, I defended the original and said, well, I don't know if it's racist. Like, are kids gonna realize that the crows are supposed to be, like, quote, black? And then I heard Cliff Edwards quote, we sounded more like the N-words than the actual N-words, the Hall Johnson Choir. And I'm like, oh my god, Cliff Edwards, no!
Jiminy Cricket.
Horrible. Yes. Like, that quote ruined his voice acting performance, and like, okay.
Oh,
it was the 1940s. It was, like, Disney was a staunch conservative. They lived in a political bubble, but yeah, no, still inexcusable.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant tangent over for me. But, and by the way, they mercifully did not include either the roustabout scene or the crows in this remake.
They do reference roustabouts, like Danny DeVito says at one point, I had to hire some roustabouts to help me out with the building of the tent and whatnot. I'm like, okay, Disney, I see what you did there.
Yep, see, it's that thing that existed in the original movie. We acknowledge that it exists.
But we don't show it.
They do that a lot.
They didn't have any crows, though. You had storks, but you didn't have any crows.
No crows. If I was Disney, I wouldn't touch that with a 10.5-foot pole. Yeah. So I agree with their decision to just, like, let's not talk about the crows.
Let's not. Say we did.
But yeah, again, the remake goes through the plot super fast. Like, there aren't, like, they even cut out, like, they reference the bathing scene, which to me is one of the most adorable moments in all of Disneydom. Cute. But in the remake, it's like they reference it, but they don't really have a scene like that, where it's just Mrs. Jumbo and Jumbo Jr. Dumbo playing together.
That's one of the strengths of the original, is how, even from the get-go, Mrs. Jumbo and Dumbo have such a strong relationship. Like, the other elephants, when they notice his ears, they start, like, making fun of him, but Mrs. Jumbo's like, screw you, and just loves her baby regardless.
Would you just look at those? EARS. What? Oh, ears!
Oh, she smacks that. Starts, like, messing with his ears, and she's like, no, get away.
I never.
Oh, I love Mrs. Jumbo. She's great.
I think the gossipy elephants are funny, too.
They are funny.
No, in this movie, there's just one elephant, so it simplifies it.
Yes. But yeah, I feel like, in this movie's defense, the original... everyone knows it, and the thing about these Disney remakes that I don't like is that they tend to just, some of them anyway, tend to just retell the original movie, but with live-action actors and CGI clocks and mice and crap. So I feel like editing the original story to, a more concise retelling and then going off in another direction for the rest of it was probably the best thing they could do for a, remake, but if they did it better, it might be one thing. With the pacing, anyway.
Yeah. I will say, as a primer for this, like, this movie, honestly, isn't much of a remake. It's kind of like, it starts at the springboard of the original movie's plot, and then it's almost like a sequel and the original movie condensed into one giant package. And, Tim Burton does this entire thing with this, like, we'll get into it later, but this massive Coney Island amusement park, which featured nowhere in the original, and it is just this gorgeous, fully realized world. So, yeah. Definitely, like, you're not just gonna go and you're gonna see Dumbo, but in 3D. This is basically an entirely different movie with entirely different characters and an entirely different climax and, even setting. Yeah. So, yeah, I will give this movie credit. It did give me something different.
Yes.
I don't necessarily believe the different was better, but different.
Different strokes for different folks.
What you talking about, Jason?
Now the world don't move unto the beat of just one drum. Anyway.
Now we get the scene where Mrs. Jumbo attacks the people. There's this really asshole circus animal handler who...
This inbred looking guy.
Yeah.
Yo, you down there, elephant, you freak. Like, to Colin Farrell's character, like... Oh, how you like being the elephant boy now? Like, okay. Again, Tim Burton is not subtle.
No, definitely not.
More power to him, but he's not subtle.
Yeah, which, see, Tim Burton, he got his start in animation, so, abstraction is probably something that he's quite used to, because that is something that you do in animation, is you paint in broad strokes to, like, heighten the emotion of scenes and whatnot. So,
and he is very good at emotion. He's a very emotional filmmaker. Character-wise, not so much.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it varies also.
Yeah.
There's some character types that I feel like he understands, and others that I feel like he doesn't.
Yeah, that's why he's good at, loners, like you said in your notes. He's good at Batman, he's good at Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah, he's good at, like, the Batman Edward Scissorhands character who's, like, an outsider and a bit of a loner and, the brooding characters, where I feel like Dumbo as a movie it's a very warm kind of story, you know.
Yeah.
It needs to be grounded in loving relationships, and it's kind of like the tragedy of seeing that loving relationship torn apart, where I feel like he doesn't quite get that warmth.
Yeah, that's fair.
Bill Teitla, who did the original animation on Dumbo, again, he animated Dumbo based on his 2-year-old son. Like, there's a great quote from Bill Teitla where he said, "I saw a chance to do a character without using any cheap theatrics. Most of the expressions and mannerisms are from my own kid, and there's nothing theatrical about a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
They're real and sincere, like when they damn near wet their pants from excitement when you come home at night."
No.
And he tried to put those things into Dumbo. And so, again, I feel like the original had that heart core, where the remake, I don't know, it just kind of felt like it was going through the plot motions.
Yeah, and they go through it pretty
in my opinion, was never more evident than during the baby mine sequence.
Let's get to that.
Basically, Mrs. Jumbo is labeled a mad elephant and sent off. Well, about to be sent off. And then they have the baby mine scene, and... Why, Disney? Why? Ugh.
Yeah.
This is a scene that is like the most guaranteed weepy, oh my god, I'm gonna cry, it's so sad. When I got home from this movie, I probably spent an hour writing like a 1-page essay on all the ways that this movie failed, this scene in particular.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, the thing is, I did not cry. I cried more when I saw the trailer for this movie playing it than I did the actual movie. This is a problem.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as good as the original movie's scene. You had a problem with the fact that the song was actually being sung by one of the mermaid in the circus.
Yeah, like, okay, I don't know. It's almost like this movie does a thing that a lot of adaptions of musicals and animation do, is that it feels corny to them to have either characters singing, or like just the omniscient Greek choir narrating the emotion like happens in Disney movies. And so, like, it has to be logical. In this place, the quote, logic is that it's the circus troupe playing Baby Mine around a campfire.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Well,
what?
I will defend that choice. I thought that was kind of clever, but
go ahead.
There isn't a point to them singing it though. I feel like some of them are sympathetic towards Dumbo. I feel like it would have been stronger if more of them were, because, you know, they're freaks. They understand that Dumbo is, you know, different and a loner. But we don't really get that from any of them because the circus troupe isn't as developed as they could be as side characters, and that's a problem that a lot of movies had, but they have little sparks of character to them, like the snake charmer guy. He has this kind of religious connection to Dumbo because he's from India, supposedly.
Oh, yes.
And the mermaid, she sings, I guess. I feel like I should like these characters more, but they don't have much to them.
Yeah, they didn't get a lot of screen time.
Yeah, if they had a little more connection, if the mermaid were, say, singing to this, like, kid in the group who was scared by what happened in the circus that night with Mrs. Jumbo rampaging, and she was like singing that to calm him down, that would have been a better way to include Baby Mine than just them doing it randomly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, they're not even singing it to Dumbo, who is off with his mother.
And that's the thing, is like, it's just such a logic break to me. Like, why are they singing this? There's no reason.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a song that you would sing around a campfire to other adults for no reason. And it's so sad in the animated movie because, like, the omniscience of it, where it just kind of, like, comes out of the sky while we're watching this sad scene, it feels like it's projecting Mrs. Jumbo's emotions to you, even though she is she has, like, one line of dialogue in the beginning of the movie.
Junior. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. But, you know, it feels like it's projecting her emotions into your soul, where here it's just, these random people in the background are singing it.
Yeah.
Feels.
As we do, like, 1 minute of Dumbo and his mom reaching through the paddy wagon that she's in.
And the thing is, they completely kept the original shot framing once it actually starts. They have the same trunk motion and the same body positions, but
it's nowhere near as sad.
Hollow.
Yeah.
I got it.
And I feel like the fact that they're both so realistic is also an issue. Because in the original, you know, they're elephants, but they're very cartoon anthropomorphized, you know. you can clearly tell what they're thinking when they're thinking it.
Yeah.
And, in the original, Timothy goes over, like, someone to see ya, and Dumbo reaches in with his little trunk, like, reaches around, like, where are you, Mom, where are you? And she's like, yay! And she goes over to him, but she's, like, got her leg tied, and it's sad, and she can only reach her trunk out, too. And, it's so sad.
It is! Like, also in the original, they made sure to have a moment of happiness where, again, this is a separated mother and child seeing each other, so it's so happy that they get to be together, but then it's sad because they have to stay apart, so it's that mix of classic Disney cornucopia stew of happiness and sadness that makes it so heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm. And they could have tied this in with the fact that the kid's mom is dead, and they're trying to reconnect with their dad, but they're having a hard time, all of them. But they don't really do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of wasted potential for parallels between those two stories.
I can see the sparks of what they were trying to do and how it would make a better movie, but they don't really, like, ignite those sparks.
Yeah. Like, the real reason for me why this scene falls flat, though, is because it's so early in the movie. Like, in the original Dumbo, again, this is just me knowing way too much about this, it's later in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is after Dumbo has been apart from his mother for a long time.
Yeah.
The gossipy elephants have rejected him. He's already blown the big top down and it came crashing. He's now been made into a clown and he's just finished his first big performance as a clown. He's humiliated and depressed and sad. And Timothy is there cleaning him off, trying to convince him, it's not so bad. You're a star. People were cheering for you. They loved you.
Yeah.
And then finally, when... Yeah.
Got lots of vitamins.
And then finally, after he's done cleaning up and Dumbo's sad, he's like, we got a special visitor. And then that's when Baby Mine happens.
Yeah.
Something about the time where in this, Mrs. Jumbo is taken away and then it's like immediately Baby Mine. I don't know. It's just, it needed more build up.
Yeah.
The original had build up.
Build up would be nice. If they had even waited on Baby Mine for later in the movie, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
And we will talk about that because we are approaching the end of the first act.
Yes. And this is where most of my, like, overly nitpicky, I just hate this compared to the original because it pales in comparison in every way, stops. Once this movie moves into its original territory, I like it a lot more.
When Michael Keaton shows up. God, I love Michael Keaton.
Dumbo finally flies, which in this version of the movie happens completely by accident.
Yeah.
Basically, he accidentally inhales a feather and sneezes, and
the boy's only
all of a sudden
contribution
lifts off the ground. Yes, the boy's only contribution.
Here's a feather. Blow on it. I did something.
Yeah. And then Minichi comes in, and they're like, the elephant flew! He flew! And he's like, prove it! And
prove it.
Then the girl... Yeah. And then the girl is like, we'll prove it with science.
With science.
And so, yeah, like, they find out that Dumbo can fly, and...
We'll dissect him for science.
Oh, God.
Sorry. Sorry.
So, you know, like, Dumbo becomes a star, and everybody has to come to see the flying elephant. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
That is pretty much where the plot of the original movie ends, in a not very dramatic fashion at all. Like, the original, that was the movie. Once Dumbo flies for everyone, it goes to the epilogue, and the movie's over. And, like, that is the emotional high of the movie. Where here, it's like, the flying is just kind of a accessory to the eventual climax. It's what attracts the attention of Mr. Vanderveer, the owner of Dreamland Park, weaver of dreams, who hears about Dumbo the Flying Elephant and comes all the way to Joplin, Missouri to see this miracle himself.
Yes.
I don't know, is this the point where we should drop the spoiler warning because we're getting into the new territory?
Yes.
Well, I guess we can talk in generalities.
Generalities, yeah. He comes over to Joplin and is like, oh, let me see this flying elephant. And I don't think he actually gets to see Dumbo fly, but does he?
No, he doesn't. He basically just comes in and offers to buy the entire circus and move them to New York City at his Dreamland Park.
Yeah, that's pretty ballsy, seeing as how we didn't actually get to see him fly. Like, what if it was a carny act?
Yeah. I don't know. That is the part of the movie that I didn't rewatch, so I can't remember exactly the specifics. But yeah, definitely when they get to New York, they're like, if he can fly. So yeah, they didn't... That is a weird plot element.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
But yeah, he basically acts as a big corporate man coming in to take over the little guy. He's basically reenacting his performance as Ray Kroc from The Founder, only he's buying out a circus instead of McDonald's.
Okay, I'll trust you on that.
The Founder is a good movie. It's on Netflix. Go watch it.
Oh,
anyway.
Okay. I never even heard of it. I learned something today.
You learned something. So yeah, they all go to Dreamland, which is the most Tim Burton-y place of the movie.
This set is gorgeous.
Yeah, like everything before this was set in Joplin, Missouri, and Missouri is a terrible place. Like location-wise, it's very dry and flat and dull. And I'm sorry to any native Missourians, but Missouri sucks.
Missouri's like Ohio. People from Missouri don't like being from Missouri.
As we say in Missouri, I ain't going back to Missouri.
Yeah, basically.
But yeah, Dreamland is this cool amusement park that has like this like double Ferris wheel and the House of Science thingy thing and lots of rides and this cool Nightmare Island
this
thing.
Huge big top. And...
Like, dang, Tim Burton, you've been holding out on us for like 40 minutes.
I feel like where Tim Burton movies thrive is in like their gorgeous set design and like just the way Tim Burton is great at creating these fantasy worlds that are like these visually amazing looking places. The circus didn't really have that. It just kind of like, I mean, it was stylized a little bit, but it was still just a circus at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The cinematography was decent, but it wasn't kind of like that wow Tim Burton thing that we get as soon as we come into the Coney Island set. And there's like this giant parade and, you know, these huge crowds all welcoming Dumbo, and we get these like big shots as they go through the Dreamland gates, and we get to see all the amusement park rides, and they have like a steel roller coaster, a trip to the moon, and all these lights. Oh, it's gorgeous.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of this set and Tim Burton's visual design here. This was very cool, and in my opinion is the one super redeeming part of this movie. Mm-hmm. Even during the rewatch, I liked just looking at the grandeur of these sets that are there. Well, they're probably CGI, but whatever. Probably,
but they look good, though.
Digital sets, they look good.
Yeah. So the rest of the movie is basically just Vanderveer incorporating Dumbo into his act with Eva Green's character. What's her? She's a trapeze artist, I think. Colette, yes. The role that I think Helena Bonham Carter would play if they were still together.
Colette is a very French trapeze artiste. She is the queen of the skies.
Yes. And the implied love interest of Colin Farrell in this movie, but they don't really get together, so it's up to interpretation.
Well, I feel like the end leaves it a little bit less ambiguous.
A little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah, they never kiss though, so that's what you need in these Disney movies, a kiss. A little peck on the cheek from the French trapeze artist.
Just one, unless you beg for more.
The French artiste.
But yeah, so now Dumbo is becoming part of the circus, and all the entire circus act from the Medici brothers is going to have this new lavish house. They go into this mansion that is now theirs, and Vanderveer is offering the dad character to become the heroic cowboy that he was again, and everybody is whimsically amazed by all of this. And so then the kids are teaching Colette how to get Dumbo to fly. I think at this point is where we need to start the spoiler warning.
Yes.
So official spoiler warning. Now we are getting into the plot details of the ending and the plot details of all the new amazing things that this movie does have to offer that aren't the original. So
and stuff from the original that is not as amazing.
Okay, yeah. They keep the overarching theme of the original, so again, like when Dumbo flies and becomes famous, that is not the big emotion, like there isn't the big emotional climax where Timothy Mouse, like they drop the feather and he's like, the feather was just a gag, you can fly, honest you can. No, that's not at the same point in the movie anymore. Yeah. But they keep the similar theme and it's a delayed burn. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. It's kind of like they keep the same feel and tone of and message of the original movie, but they stretch it out through both the plot of the original movie plus the plot of the, quote, sequel part.
Yeah. And they also keep the one scene that you wanted to see when you knew that this movie was being directed by Tim Burton, but it's not as good as you think it's going to be.
Oh, yes. So now we're getting into Dumbo's first big performance. He is officially flown, sort of, with Colette in practice. And now it's his big debut, and, everybody's coming to the Coliseum, and there's Dumbo plushies, and everyone's coming to see the miracle.
The Dumbo plushies they use just being the plushies they sell at Disney stores, which I thought was kind of clever.
I guess that makes sense where it's the critics talking about, like, oh, this is some metaphor about Disney's acquisitions.
Yeah, we can get to that later.
Yeah, and also there's an Alan Arkin banker character who is financing the whole thing. So... yeah, it's Dumbo's big debut at the Vanderveer Coney Island Park, and
yeah, they have this cool opening act with these performers, and then right before Dumbo goes on, they have this like bubble act, and the minute you look at the bubbles and the mood lighting, you're like, okay, here we go, pink elephants.
Yeah, I have to say, like, when they finally started this show and we saw all of the dancers and the acrobats and the patterns that it was kind of like a classic, like, 1930s musical setup almost, where they had these grand sets and all of these dancing extras. It was a wonderful spectacle to behold.
Yeah.
This was the first time in the movie that I genuinely went, wow, that looks great.
Yeah.
And I was enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Up until this point, I was just being a nitpicky pain in the butt, but this finally made me, like, slack jaw. This is gorgeous.
This is wonderful. I feel like a child at the circus.
Yes, exactly.
Probably not like that, though.
Simply wonderful, darling.
Boy golly!
I do have to say, though, like, the pink elephant scene is interesting. It's just like these acrobats making bubbles, and somehow the bubbles are like sentient and taking the shape of elephants.
Yeah, like it made more sense when Dumbo was drunk. What's going on here?
I'm gonna be honest, I can't figure this scene out. Like, what is supposed to be happening here?
It would have made more sense if it was like from Dumbo's point of view and he like saw elephants, like something like that. But
yeah, they flash in the cinematography back and forth from the elephants to Dumbo bobbing his head up and down like 5 times. And it's always just like
the same
a
shot.
2-second cut. Like 2.5 seconds of elephants, back to Dumbo bobbing his head up and down, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do. And then back to the elephants, then back to Dumbo. And it just does this over and over and over again.
Dumbo's all far out, man.
Maybe you can interpret this as like Dumbo is trying to see his mom in this, but then why do they have the trippy, like, camel elephant imagery from the original? It just doesn't fit.
It's not even scary.
What is supposed to be happening here?
Like, the original was kind of scary at times with its imagery. Like, come on, Tim Burton, scare the pants out of me. I thought they were going to end it with that, like, creepy one, the creepy elephant with, like, made up of all those elephant heads, and, like, it has that big yellow head and 2 blue heads next to it in the middle. Like, I thought they were going to end it with that one, but they didn't.
Hashtag nightmare fuel.
Yeah, they just ended it with Danny DeVito going all pink elephants. And Alan Arkin's like, whatever.
Hashtag the big-lipped alligator moment.
It really is in this movie, more than even the original, because, like, it just happens and then they just move on.
Yeah, in this movie, it happens. No one ever speaks of it again.
At least in the original, Timothy's like pink elephants after he wakes up. Like,
yeah, the official rules for the big-lipped alligator moment comes right the out of nowhere, has little to no bearing on the plot, and after it happens, no one speaks of it again.
Yep.
Anyway, yes, this fits all those criteria.
They do.
But again, during the rewatch, I was just trying to figure out what the hell is happening here. Why? The original movie, the elephant scene is weird.
Yes.
It still just kind of comes out of nowhere, but you can tell what the point was.
Yeah.
You can tell this was the Disney animators trying to show off. Look at this crazy creative thing that we can do. Watch this, like, awesome, distorted, nightmarish animation and be wowed at what we can do. Where I don't understand this scene. Like, the designs of the pink elephants were super cartoony. So it's like they're trying to pay homage to the original, but it's not in the spirit of the original because it's not really a spectacle in this movie. Like, I wasn't exactly wowed by it. Like, the character designs don't elicit a sense of wonder, and it cuts away from it, like, every 2 seconds to go back and forth from Dumbo. Like, what were they trying to do with this scene?
They were just bubbles, too. Like, they started, started out as bubbles in the original, but then they, like, changed into actual, you know, colorful elephant-looking things.
Yeah.
It works because you still remember that scene some 80 years on, and, like, I don't think you're really gonna remember this scene, like, 80 years from now if you're still alive.
Yeah, it's like, it happens and then it's over. it's not really spectacular like the original one was. I'm just gonna hurt my brain trying to understand this scene, because it doesn't make logical sense within the movie either. Like, why are these things... How are these things in the shape of elephants? Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Let's treat it like a bad hangover and move on.
Which is exactly what it should be. Okay, anyway, so now we finally get to Dumbo doing his first big flying act, and for some reason, there's no safety nets this time, which, again, I have to ask, why? What is the point?
Because Van der Veer wants it to be more of a spectacle, and if there's no nets, then, like, people will be like, oh, no nets, ooh, what's going on, ooh.
That's not what he says, though. He just says nets are only for practice, and that's it.
Nets are for Why is Dumbo rated PG-13?
Van der Veer Newcomb.
I'm gonna have to do editing in this video. Oh no.
It's okay, we can bleep things.
Yes.
Yeah, basically Colette almost falls to her death, and because there's no safety nets up. Great job, Van der Veer. That was some fine class thinking there.
It's to basically show that, oh no, Van der Veer, the obviously corrupt business guy, is corrupt. Like, we knew this was coming. Come on.
And Dumbo flies out of, he eventually does fly off the giant elevated pedestal and immediately out of the circus ring because he thinks he hears his mother coming from Nightmare Island.
Yes.
There's, this elephant sound. Okay, I'd like to use this moment to elaborate what my biggest criticism with this movie as a whole is, and that is the internal logic does not make sense. This movie does not hold my suspension of disbelief at all.
Sure.
The original Dumbo, even though it is colorful, animated elephants, all of the plot beats made logical sense. Well, okay, mostly. But in this movie, there's so many things that it feels like the reaction of the characters is so out of proportion to what was actually shown on screen. I brought this up already with, the kids meeting their dad after the war, and it's where's the warmth? This is taking me out of the logic of the movie because I cannot fathom this happening in real life. That happens again with this, after Dumbo flies, he circles around the audience, 3 times and then flies out of the doors. There's this newspaper article, has Van der Veer lost control of it? Is this elephant dangerous? It's no! Yeah. Where's the spectacle? If you people in the audience just witnessed a freaking flying elephant!
Yeah. Miracle flying elephant flies off from the tent. Everyone disappointed.
I know! What the crap? Okay.
I mean, Alan Arkin kind of makes sense because he's a jaded, tycoon guy. Oh, I saw it fly away. That's not impressive, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. You're Alan Arkin. Everything upsets you, but...
That makes sense. He's a cynical business guy. But, the audience looks disappointed, and the newspapers are running front page stories about has Van der Veer lost control of his?
Yeah, come on, guys. There's a flying elephant.
This just really feels like the plot is dictating what has to happen on screen.
Yeah.
Well,
that's fair.
The plot says we have to have everybody skeptical, so even though this doesn't merit everyone being skeptical, it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Which that's just bad script writing.
That's fair.
When I watched the movie, I'm am I being too hard on this? And again, critics seem to be fine. They're is this some elaborate metaphor for Disney's takeover? And I'm am I missing something? Looking at the production credits, no, I am not missing anything. This script was written by Aaron Kruger, the scriptwriter for Transformers movies 2, 3, and 4, as well as the crappy-ass Scarlett Johansson Ghost in the Shell remake. I did not miss a damn thing. This script is trash.
He apparently also wrote The Brothers Grimm.
Yes.
A movie I caught on TV once, that Terry Gilliam one.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I've seen of his.
After finding that out, I'm God, give Tim Burton some credit. He took a script that was terrible, didn't understand the original movie, fudged all of its emotional story beats, and he still made something memorable out of it at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, now looking at this, I'm alright, this script is just bad. It's dictating this is where the emotion has to be, so make the emotion happen.
Yeah.
What do you mean we didn't earn it? No, the emotion's happening. It's emotional. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. Rant over.
I really have an issue with bad scripts like Maleficent and such, but I don't know what it was about this script that didn't actually, well, maybe not the script. The script is kind of dumb, but maybe the performances kind of made up for it because, like, Danny DeVito and Colin Farrell and Eva Green, they're all doing a good job. It's just they don't have much to work with, and I feel like it was enough for me to kind of pull me out of that kind of like, oh, this is so stupid, I don't like this. I'm not making fun of you, though.
Yeah. I'm not saying it was stupid. I do feel like there were good ideas in here. It's just that I felt like the execution was a little bit too wooden and predictable.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
Where Maleficent was just a bad idea from the start.
Yes. Oh, but we're gonna get a sequel.
Which I don't know if we're gonna talk about or not.
Oh, we're talking about it. We're talking about it, sister. We're talking about it.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, the performances, I think, made up for it for me, and even the fact that Mrs. Jumbo was just there in the same circus, it didn't really take me out of it for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Even though in a stronger script, this would have been where the baby mind thing comes in, because she's been gone for so long, and then they meet each other again, and this is where you'd have that emotional moment, like, oh, Mom, I found you, oh no, I'm sad, because you're still in a cage.
Actually, that's a great idea. I totally would have, that probably would have gotten me to cry.
Yeah, you had a thing going there, but you blew it.
Yeah.
You blew it too soon.
Yeah, now, and I should say, because I just went off on like a 5-minute rant about everything wrong with this, I did not hate this movie. It's just that there were parts of it that really frustrated me. Sure. Like, as a whole, I would still give it like a 6 out of 10 because there are good parts. And I don't feel like it came together to form a good cohesive whole, but I'm not saying like, oh, this is one of the worst movies of all time or one of the worst ideas Disney's have ever had. Like, no, I was still entertained more than I was not entertained. Mm-hmm. I will say that.
This, I think, your relationship to this movie is my relationship with the Cinderella remake.
Oh, okay.
It's not a bad movie, but there's things about it that I'm like, why would you do this? What is wrong with you? Why is Cinderella this passive? She was not this passive in the original. That's something everyone thinks she is, but she's not. Watch the movie again, you fools. She is proactive at points. All right.
Yeah. See, again, I think a lot of it depends on how you feel about the original, where for me, the original is like a cherished treasure of adorableness, so I have very strong opinions about messing with it.
Yeah, for sure. But yes, this is where the next day, Danny DeVito finds out that Vanderveer has let go all of his circus troupe, which you kind of figured he was going to do in the first place, because that's how these movies go. And at the same time, we find out that he thinks that keeping Mrs. Jumbo in the same circus will only distract Dumbo. So he says to his creepy, bald, no eyebrows assistant, get rid of her.
Yep.
Get rid of her, take her out back, and give her the business. That's not what he says, but that's basically what he dictates.
Yeah.
And this is where they get the idea that they have to free Mrs. Jumbo and also get her and Dumbo out of here and away from any circus.
Which is definitely, like, the original movie was very affirming of the concept of circus animals in the first place. It was not affirming of their treatment of circus animals, but the concept of having animals in a circus was totally fine with the original movie. Where, in this one, it's like, there is the question of should these animals even be kept in captivity. Mm-hmm. It goes much more that direction at the end.
It's very much based on the modern view of circuses and the treatment of elephants especially.
Yeah, there is that question of, well, I guess the scenes that they show of people picking up like Dumbo plushies does kind of make you question, like they're showing that, you know, this animal which has feelings and is, you know, traumatized over losing his mother is being used as a corporate product. Is that okay?
Is that okay? Is capitalism okay? That's a debate we could get into. But Vanderveer firing the troop.
Vanderveer? More like Vanderfear, am I right?
Vandersneer. Anyway. Yeah, he fires...
Vander Germaine Greer.
Black Mirror Vandersnatch. Anyway. Yeah, him firing the troop after, you know, acquiring them is where the, like, talk of, oh, is this a big message about Disney and corporate sabotage? Not sabotage, but you get it?
Yeah, corporate mergers and takeovers where basically a CEO has a competitor, buys up their assets, and then guts the company to eliminate them as competition. That's basically what happened here.
Yeah, and it's basically what happened with Disney and 20th Century Fox. So that's where the comparisons come in with critics. And yeah, guys, it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, I do kind of feel like people are reading too much into it.
It's a very ironic coincidence, considering it now paints Disney in a sort of negative light in its own movie, but yeah, it's just coincidence.
That is what I got from this, is that it's just a typical, like, big businessman villain, like Hollywood has randomly started doing for the past 10 years or so, ever since Occupy Wall Street, give or take.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of become a stock trope, the greedy businessman trope.
Yeah, and Michael Keaton plays this up for all it's worth, and he is a joy. I love Michael Keaton. It's not a good character, but the way he just completely goes off the rails at the end, and like, we can talk about the climax now, right?
I need electricity!
Yeah, I need power to come back on. I'm gonna smash all the buttons. Michael Keaton is so great. He's so hammy, and I love it.
Yeah, so basically, the circus troupe decides to set Mrs. Jumbo free, and now there's another Dumbo performance where they're gonna try to get it right this time. And the father character finally throws away the artificial arm that he's been trying to wear for the past, like, hour and a half.
He's accepted himself. I guess this is a thing that happened to you.
Yeah, which, honestly, I'm pretty good with that metaphor.
Yeah.
Like, that was a part of that storyline that did work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, he climbs up the circus tent and tears a hole in the canvas so that Dumbo can fly out.
Yes.
With Colette on his back.
With Colette, the French actress. Not
the French actrice, yes.
Amalie.
Here we go again. But yeah, so they actually go to, like, the circus performers are sneaking into Mrs. Jumbo's enclosure at the same time and breaking her out, and so they're waiting at the gate for Dumbo to escape and shut the power off so that they can get through the gates and away.
Yeah.
And they do. And Michael Keaton Vanderveer villain is like, what is happening? And so...
like, he tries to get the power back on right away, and his technician guys are like, we gotta do this the right way or you're gonna make a power surge, and he's like, I don't care, and he basically starts a fire, an electrical fire that spreads throughout all of Dreamland,
and for plot reasons, while the big top is burning down, the kids and Dumbo end up back in the middle.
Being chased by that bald eyebrowless guy.
Yes. And then we get, like, our big payoff for what the movie's been building up to, where while they're escaping from that, Dumbo's feather burns.
The magic feather!
Yeah. Shoot, that's another discussion that I want to have, is how they changed the whole feather motif.
Oh, yeah.
So in the original Dumbo, the entire movie is about Timothy trying to get Dumbo to be confident. Dumbo has lost confidence in himself and, you know, he just feels cast out, and Timothy is trying, like, everything to get him confident. So finally, almost like a Deus Ex feather, right after, like, when they meet the crows, he's like, Dumbo, the magic feather! Now you can fly! Yeah. And then 2 minutes later, he loses the feather, and he's like, Dumbo, the magic feather was just a gag! You can fly! Honest you can! And so, it's like there and gone in a flash, but the whole point of that was to give Dumbo confidence. Where here, it's totally different, because at the beginning of the movie, he inhales a feather, and that's what sets him off on the flying, but we don't really get that self-confidence angle. Here we go with me going into criticism mode again. But the original movie was about Dumbo. It was about his character progression from losing his confidence and being lonely to finding his confidence. In this movie, none of that is there. It's just he's looking for his mom.
Yeah.
So, like, this movie isn't really about Dumbo. It's honestly about the human characters, and Dumbo is just kind of there.
And if the human characters were more interesting, you probably wouldn't even notice that, but they're not.
Yeah.
At least the kids aren't.
So basically, Dumbo's feather is burned as they go off, and as they leave the burning big top, and now Dumbo has to fly. But the problem is, now he doesn't have his feather. So the kids have to convince him, Dumbo, you can still fly. And this is when the girl pulls out the key that her mom gave her. And she's like, she told me that I can use this to unlock that... I forget the exact wording, but the unlock thing.
Yeah, any door or whatever. That's Secret Rim, but it's the same thing.
And she says, but I don't need this key. And she takes the key and throws it into the fire. And...
I was like, that's still from your mom, though. You didn't need to do that.
But I actually kind of like... I can't remember why. Oh, let me look. But...
the sacred text!
That is something that I really like, is that the key had meaning from the beginning.
Yeah.
Where the magic feather is just there and gone in a fraction of a second. So there was actually a tangible sense of loss when she threw the key into the fire. And that was like, oh, crap moment for me.
Yeah.
So, I was on board with that. I liked that.
Because I felt that too, but at the same time, I was like, that's from your mom. Go back and get it.
Yeah.
But whatever. She ain't my mom.
Yeah. But yeah, so Dreamland ends up burning down, but Dumbo reunites, etc. Happy, but sad.
Happy. Vanderveer is ruined, and Danny DeVito and Alan Arkin go off for, a milkshake or something?
Yeah.
A hot dog. Let me buy you a hot dog. Oh, that's great.
Oh, and by the way, fun trivia. Dreamland was actually a real park in Coney Island.
Yeah.
It didn't look like the Dreamland in the movie, obviously, but, Coney Island had 3 famous amusement parks. Dreamland, Luna Park, and Steeplechase Park in their heyday. And, it was kind of this combination of, an actual amusement park with rides. It was also this big spectacle with all the electric lights, and also it was a home of all the various, quote, freak shows. So, that was classic Coney Island. So, this movie does pay homage to a lot of that. And again, Dreamland actually did burn down in a fire in 1911. So, yeah, this movie actually does kind of reference real events. I mean...
Yeah, 6 years later, but...
yeah, the timelines don't match up, but... I did find that interesting, looking at it later, that Dreamland was a real place. It actually did burn down in the fire. So it's kind of they semi-connected this movie to some real-world lore, taking huge artistic liberties with it, but still, it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm down with that stuff. But yeah, the kids fly off with Dumbo to meet with his mother by the pier, because they're gonna take them on this boat to India, send them off and to be free.
And then we cut back to the Max Minucci circus, and where wild animals should be free, and they set the rats free randomly.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention those rats, because they're not important at all.
Oh yeah, the rats are, they're the girl's rats, I believe she's training them. Yeah. With science.
With science, aka a lobotomy.
Oh, God.
That's what a real Tim Burton Dumbo would be. No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. 1980s Tim Burton.
Movie ruined for me. Bye. See you later.
But yeah, there's your Timothy Mouse cameo. Those mice.
Yeah. Again, this is kind of a thing that bothers me, is that they just randomly pay homage to everything from the original movie with kind of no purpose.
Yeah, some of it works for me, some of it doesn't.
Yeah, the pink elephants is the most heinous example, but there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, hey, remember that thing from the original movie? There it is. Nostalgia. And then it's gone.
No champagne near the baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all happy. Everyone has an act. The kids do stuff. Like the son... What does the son do? What does the son even do? Forget the son.
He's a mini cowboy.
Yeah, forget the son. Who cares? The daughter has this science tent set up, so they've all embraced her weird Mary Shelley science act now. Mm-hmm. And
Marie Curie.
Yes, I butchered that. The dad is the one-armed cowboy again, and he's working with Colette, who may or may not be his girlfriend. Who knows? So everyone's happy. And it ends with looking at this weather vane that's of Dumbo and his mom, and then it cuts to Dumbo and his mom in India, and they meet up with these other elephants.
The way they framed the shot, I thought it was the jungle. I thought that it was the jungle from the Jungle Book.
Yeah, I was wondering, okay, are they gonna cross over here? Because that's gonna be weird. I seriously
thought it was. Oh my gosh! When they pan down to the river, I'm like, oh my god, is that the water rock?
It's the water troops. Mowgli looks up who's that? And then it ends.
I was almost expecting it.
It's setting up a Disney live action shared universe. Jungle Book 2, Mowgli versus Dumbo.
Oh god. Dumbo 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Do you bleed, elephant? You will.
Oh, Lord. So I looked like an idiot in the theater because I laughed oh my god, when I saw the jungle, and then I realized, oh wait, it's not that. No, this is just a home for the elephants.
I was with you there, though. I was like, okay, are they actually gonna do this?
Oh boy.
So that was Tim Burton's Dumbo. Final thoughts?
My final thoughts on this movie are that it annoyed the crap out of me a lot, and I was nitpicking the heck out of it because there's so much that doesn't make sense, and I feel like the script is just bad, and the acting is, especially the kids, just ugh. But where this movie won me over was in its visual design, and Danny DeVito's acting was constantly entertaining for sure. And, you know, it ultimately did have an okay-ish conclusion. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it enough that I'm not, like, mad that I spent theatrical prices to see it, but as an adaptation of Dumbo, it's bad.
Sure.
As its own thing, it's okay. I'd rate it, like, 5 or 6 out of 10. It's fine. But this is not an adaptation of Dumbo. Like,
sure.
Yeah. I guess those are my thoughts on it. It's all right.
Yeah, that's basically my thoughts. It's fine.
It's fine.
And I still don't think it's as good as the original, because the original is a good movie. It's just I'm not a huge fan of it.
Okay.
You know, for reasons. But this movie, it has moments, like, I get where it was trying to go, and I appreciate it for that. And I also appreciate it for just being an original new take on Dumbo. It's not just a straight up retelling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can appreciate it for that. The acting from the adults is good, and
yeah, I do give the movie credit. It tried.
Yeah, it tried. You tried. You didn't really succeed, but yeah, all right.
I respect movies much more when they try and fail than when they don't try at all.
Yeah, you're all right with me, Dumbo. Now, Tim Burton, go do your Beetlejuice 2 movie or whatever else you're trying to do.
Actually, this is like Tim Burton's first movie in a long time.
Yeah, I think since... nope. He did Miss Peregrine 3 years ago.
3 years ago still seems like quite a while.
It's a little bit, but...
Compared to how many movies Tim Burton was doing in the mid-2000s.
Oh, yeah. He's not in as high demand as he was before, but he's still working.
Yeah.
Miss Peregrine wasn't a good movie, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, Dark Shadows was the last Tim Burton movie that I saw, which I actually kind of liked that one.
I never saw it.
Critics don't like it. I like it because it kind of knew that it was trying to be a corny nonsense movie, and it was funny and enjoyable. So I kind of liked that movie. Unpopular opinion on that one. So I probably just sound like I'm all over the place tonight.
That's fair. That's me every night. Anyway, let's do our sign-offs.
Yes. All right. So I am Carrie. You can find me on YouTube at Animation Critic, all one word. I am about to talk about the spring 2019 anime season. Shameless plug.
Sorry. Go check that out. I am Jason Knott. You can find my reviews on whatever reviews on blogger.com. I'll probably have a review for Dumbo by the time I upload this. Or, well, you upload this and I finish this. Anyway, also check out our title card designer and co-host, usually, Becca McGraw, at rebexorcist.com. She does commissions and art, and she's great and pretty. Go check her out.
She's an awesome person. Do the thing.
Yes. Also, thanks to Mitch McGraw. I still haven't figured out if you have a Twitter or not, Mitch, but...
Becca said he's working on it, I believe.
Yes, last time we checked, and that was a while ago. I need to get in contact with him. So yeah, just, we'll figure that out later. Thank you, Mitch.
Alright, well, whatever. Play us off, Mitch.
Get us out of here. Abort!
Get out of here! Abort! We're failing. We're drowning. Abort! Gigi, you need to not play with the light.
Gigi.
Okay? My cat's being a pain in the butt.
Don't you do it, Gigi.
Gigi, get off the table, please.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it. Alright, here we go.
Barrier has been put up to keep the cat from getting in the way.
Good.
Alright. Yes, Michael Keaton in this movie is the owner of Dreamland Park.
Dreamland. He's a dream daddy.
Oh, God.
Dream Daddy. That's a video game.
Keaton Vanderveer. Daddy.
Yeah, that's gonna be a blooper. Anyway.
I'm still stealing that from ContraPoints.
Pink elephants.
Pink elephants.
Pink elephant ASMR. I would love that.
They're here.
Disney ASMR. I wonder if that's a thing. That probably is a thing.
I can understand the sight of worms and look at microscopic germs, but technicolor pachyderms is really too much for me. All right, chase them away. Chase them away.
Chase them away. Goodbye.